Hello everyone, this is Jim Okrasinski with your week 2 lecture video. This week we are focusing on the unit reading, which is love letters. Everybody posted up by now, just about everybody's posted up about section 1 in love letters, the opening section. And jumping to the overview and the objectives page here in our unit, I often, I talk about that dialectal thinking, right? That goes on in your head when you write stories, much like Mickey was recounting all these events and kind of like doing a brain dump into a pad of paper there, right? But these are all how we go about forming these habits of the mind, right? Because reading and writing are recursive processes, right? That's how we develop that reading, thinking, writing, intellectual inquiry there. So the idea here is you can see in section 1 about how Mickey wrote to deal with the loss of Daryl, but at the same time, she's looking around and trying to discover herself too in love letters, right? So the point about this lecture video is for us to talk about purpose and audience. It's something that's going to be stressed quite often in the course, and I want to make sure that everybody understands where we're going with purpose and audience. The reason why I begin all my COM 101 courses with love letters, because remember, when I talk about purpose, the purpose is in writing is the reason or the goal you have for writing about a topic, whatever this may be, whatever genre it may be. It could be an email, it could be a text message, it could be an essay, it could be a lab report, it could be a proposal, whatever you've been assigned or tasked to write, it has a purpose. Critical in that purpose is understanding your audience, the specific people that you are writing for. What do they know about your piece of writing? Okay, what does that piece of writing have to accomplish given the audience? What is their level of knowledge? Do they assume that do you assume that they know maybe what you're talking about? Oftentimes not. So you have to, when you write to a public or a general audience, right, you have to explain in a little bit more detail. You have to lay it all out because people might not know what you're talking about, and that's just part of writing and being a good communicator. So there's a lot of purposes behind writing, and here are a few, whether it's to persuade or socialize or instruct, to explain, recount, inquire, writing a letter of inquiry, to entertain, to inform. All of these are examples of purpose and audience. What is it that you are trying to accomplish with that piece of writing that you have been tasked, right? So the idea here is on looking at audience, yourself. Okay, if part of your audience is yourself, you know exactly how much detail is required. It's important to understand that if it's a general audience, you have to include more details and descriptions because the audience might not know what you're talking about. Personal friends might have a little bit more knowledge. People you don't know personally, but you know something about them, might be an idea behind an audience. A remote audience is generally what I call a general audience or a public audience, right? Your writing sometimes has to accomplish a goal based upon the audience. And you'll see that a little bit more when we get to essay 2. But when we talk about public writing or a general audience, you have to assume they do not know what you're talking about. Oftentimes, I will talk about the rhetorical situation, and just to give you an overview of the rhetorical situation, it's writer, purpose, audience, message. And oftentimes, what we write is within a specific context and a culture. It's important. One culture has an interpretation that another culture doesn't have, and that is even more popular now because of the diversity that we have, not only in the classroom but in the work world, the professional world. It's always critical. So, in looking at section 1, we look at why Mickey wrote, the significance behind not mailing letters to Daryl. They're pretty straightforward. What were her reasons? What does this say about writing or writing in general? This is where somebody can just cope and use writing to cope, use writing to express their thinking. And purpose was maybe to inform Daryl, but they never got mailed, right? But in section 2, it takes on a different purpose in writing. Now, Mickey's in jail and she's got to figure out where she's going, what she's doing with her life. And it's important to understand that writing takes on a different purpose when you want to accomplish something. Scribbling pads, sitting on a car, okay, out in the streets is one thing, but now all of a sudden it has to accomplish something. So she talks about purpose in writing significantly in sections 2 and 3. And on top of it, she also starts talking about words and language and then how important they are in getting things done in the world, right? So when you're going through and preparing to write for discussion board number, okay, there was a number 3, all right, for our first sections 2 and 3. You're going to want to find some textual evidence in sections 2 and 3 where she talks about purpose in writing, and they're pretty apparent if you take your time, you go through it, and you annotate, right? Writing takes on a different scope, like she starts writing when she's in jail, Cocoa County Jail, right? She wrote to Daryl to establish a future. She wrote to discover her thinking, where she wanted to go. More importantly, that she had access to focus on here in this example about the English teacher and the English classes that she was going to take. If you were to scroll into page 11, I believe, okay, she talks about all the writing that she did, right? Okay, the stories that she wrote. Everybody does a lot of writing, she says. But all of a sudden now, writing takes on a different perspective. So she's talking to the teacher. She's trying to get time off. But here, the key is the line here. The journals probably would have served my purpose, but somewhere between thinking that I might be able to get time off my sentence in exchange for my scribbling and sitting at my desk trying to decide what to show her, my purpose changed a tiny bit. She talks about her purpose, about how this might be her first independent study. And all of a sudden now you have a situation where Mickey is worried about somebody reading her writing. She's writing to be read, and then it's going to be evaluated, much like everybody in the academic. When you write an essay, everybody is writing is a commodity. It has value. Here too, it becomes a commodity and value because it gave her time off her sentence. So there are several other examples, textual examples here in sections 2 and 3, where Mickey talks about specifically about purpose. You look at how she has to try to get herself out of jail, how to turn felonies into misdemeanors, and what she has to do. And then writing takes on a different perspective along with understanding how to use words and language. So these are just some of the examples in love letters that we you can choose to highlight in your discussion board post. Remember, I'm looking for you to highlight textual evidence and kind of tell me all about purpose in writing and look at the prompts in the discussion boards. I want to see that everybody is grasping on this. I want to see that you can come up with some other examples in sections 2 and 3. Okay. Now I want to remind everybody that this is situational. The discussion boards are timely. A lot of people are moving ahead in some of the discussion boards. You want to be able to circle back and respond to your course mates. Also, in some instances, you may want to wait until I talk about a specific topic before you start posting. You do have a rubric on these discussion boards, and I will assess your writing like I will assess everything else. So it's not a quick and easy completion. Make sure you read the instructions carefully and that your posts, your initial posts, and your responses meet the criteria, and the responses do engage and move the conversation forward. So as we move into the discussion boards, into the units, be sure to understand that these will be assessed, and we're looking for something a little bit more than the original get to know you post. All right. So I hope this clarifies exactly what we're looking for and the purpose behind love letters, and everybody has an idea of what purpose and audience might be. That being said, good luck, stay safe, enjoy the Labor Day holiday.